You're here at South by Southwest at an exciting time, a crossroads, I might say, for the sport of Formula One in the United States. As you all know, you've seen the growth of Formula One if you've paid any attention. And with it being here in Austin, like last year, we saw 400,000 people attend the 3 days at U.S. Grand Prix. That's the most it's ever seen a Formula One Grand Prix anywhere in history. A perfect time for us to have this discussion because we've seen so many of the technology companies that you all see at South by right now. Everything from Dell to Cisco to AMD, Oracle, CrowdStrike. And yesterday, Salesforce announced a $100 million package that they're about to sponsor Formula One. Not only are all you people paying attention to Formula One, so are the sponsors. It's what we have been waiting for the last decade. We've got a lot of American skin in the game now. 10 years ago when we started doing this, there was very little involvement. Well, in 2017, the entire sport was purchased by Liberty Media, an American company. Then the Haas F1 team came in, actually the year before that. But now you've got so many Americans involved in the sport. You've got Doralton Capital that owns Williams Racing. You've got an American company investing in McLaren. It's up and down the grid, and we see it now. We've got drivers coming up. You've got Logan Sargent, who's part of the Williams Driver Academy. You've got who all? You got Jack Crawford in
Cameron
Formula
Gass,
3. There's
Kalen
tons.
Frederick, you name them.
Yeah, so we're on the precipice of having an American driver as part of this. And of course, Netflix Drive to Survive, that series, which, how many of you seen that series?
Wow.
Virtually
Yeah.
everyone
Virtually
in the room.
everybody in the room.
Yeah, including Mario.
Mario put his hand up there.
Yeah.
Mario, I know you can't see the audience, but we got about 100 folk out there watching you.
Fabulous. So I have to be careful, right? I have to be careful what I say since you have an audience.
No. It's a closed environment. You say whatever you will.
Okay.
I think the next thing is to introduce our guest, who needs no introduction, because anybody could argue that you're looking at the greatest race driver in the history of motorsports. With Mario's resume of Formula One world champion, multiple Indycar champion, Pikes Peak, NASCAR, and what
Le
else?
Mans.
Le Mans, that's it.
Sebring.
IROC series, one of my
Sebring.
favorites.
A career that spanned over 4 decades. It's unprecedented. Mario was 53 years old the last time he won an IndyCar race. We saw Tom Brady come out of retirement. He's got another 10 years to catch Mario. With that, I would like to introduce our guest, Mario Andretti.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Mario, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. What have you seen in this surge of Formula One in the United States?
Well, I've seen what everyone else has seen, and you just mentioned the flick that Drive to Survive. I think there's something that captured the imagination of maybe the younger set, or anyway, I think has awakened the audience that I think has been underestimated to me as far as the American audience for Formula One. And then the facility, which you have there in Austin, by having that as a stable, solid facility to host Formula One forever, is huge, because once Formula One came out of Watkins Glen, it had a couple of years at Long Beach, and then it became a gypsy. It went to Phoenix, it went to Vegas, it went to Dallas, and so on and so forth. But it was all temporary circuits, which in effect it was exactly that, temporary. But now I think with the solid infrastructure, solid facility that we have here in Austin, I think it's cemented the event here for forever. And now, of course, this year they're going to have 2 races, in Miami as well, and they're talking about maybe a third one even in Las Vegas. So the presence will be, somewhat considerable here. And as you said, all of a sudden, because of this new awakening, you have the commercial side coming on as well, want to participate. And again, Formula One is at a very beautiful spot right now.
Mario, I got to ask you about COTA. You were here at the beginning. You were the first man to ever drive a Formula One car. You're
Reunited.
Yeah,
a special one. Yeah.
Your 1979 Lotus, black and gold, around the circuit here at COTA. But do you think that COTA has been a good permanent home for Formula One all these 10 years?
100%. Absolutely. I think we've seen, there was a bit of a lull, but all of a sudden, right after the pandemic, everybody wanted to be there. And you've seen what, we all have seen this past year. The attendance was just enormous. And they do a phenomenal job because, we had been talking even, while it was in the planning stages you don't just create, Bobby Epstein, was pretty sharp, and they said, we don't just want to have a race, we want to have an event. And of course, Austin is a great town, great city to be and visiting, but also, to having, some of the concerts and so on and so forth that they're hosting throughout the weekend is a huge attraction for everyone. And that's what you need to do nowadays. People want to be entertained in different ways, and the caveat is, of course, the race.
So what about Miami? We've heard that Vegas is on the horizon probably, but do you think Miami is a good choice? We've heard everything from that it's easy to travel to from Europe and what they've done with the facility down there. Do you think that's a good next step?
Well, let's face it. I mean, there's a big investment there, and as you said, the accessibility from even South America. South America is huge when it comes to Formula One because we see the influx even to COTA, so quite honestly, I think I stand corrected, but I think that at this point, I think one can feed the other. As far as COTA, I think it's going to be better. I don't think there's one is going to take something away from the other. I don't think that at all, because I think our audience is ready to see more, not less. And I'll tell Bobby Epstein that I'm right.
Mario, when we started this project, we said there was three things that we felt needed to happen in this country. And I've been banging the American drum for a long time, even though I'm an Englishman. I've lived here most of my life. And there's always been a rivalry in Bernie's days between, having Monaco and the Indianapolis 500 on the same day, which I thought was a little churlish. I'd like to get your take on that. But we said the three things were a track. We've got that. And now we've got street circuits that, if along with COTA as a permanent circuit, having some street races is fine. Secondly, having a team. We've got Haas, and there's potential, as we all know, of that growing to maybe another franchise, maybe even 12. So, and now look at the American influence with Otmar and Zach Brown and so on and so forth. So the point is, the sponsors are starting to become more American. We're here at South by. Tech companies are buying up space on Formula One cars. So everything's in place, except perhaps the driver. I just want you perhaps to tell our audience, when you went over from here, because you pretty much were American, even though you were born in Italy, what was your reaction? What was the reaction to an American coming to Formula One, which, let's face it, has always been inherently a European sport?
Well, basically, especially coming from the Indycar set, which, in those days when I was, pretty much wanting to join the Formula One area is, was primarily oval racing. And then you had some road racers such as, Phil Hill, Carroll Shelby, and so on and so forth. In Formula One, but we were, as IndyCar drivers, we were not viewed as candidates for that. But I developed a relationship early on with Colin Chapman, actually, while at Indianapolis. It happens that when Jim Clark won, I finished third, and I was rookie, and so on and so forth. And when we after the banquet, the day after the race, when we were saying our goodbyes, I said to Colin, Colin, someday I would like to do Formula One. This is 1965. And he said, Mario, he said, when you think you're ready, you call me and I'll have a car for you. 3 years later, I called him and he had a car for me. And you know, in my first race, I put that thing on pole, you know, next to Jackie Stewart and so forth. And so here again, it's not about talking, it's about doing. And I had the opportunity to be with a top team, of course, and that's what you need to be able to score, to bring back any results. But going back to what we're facing now, probably the same thing. But again, that's why, you know, that's why my son Michael, obviously, that's what he wants to do. He wants to join as a team owner, and that's in process right now. Michael will always have at least one American driver on his team. And you never know, ultimately maybe two, but at least one. So that's the objective. And I think the timing couldn't be any better right now as we've been talking, you know, with multiple events here and you know, the new euphoria about Formula One, the new interest. I think we need to be represented. I always say Formula One is the Olympics of motorsports. And there's so much pride in representing your country. I can tell you, you know, for me, obviously, in Italy, when I wanted to play the national anthem, and then to play the Italian national anthem, you know, but to be on the top step of the podium and hearing the national anthem at the end of the race, I'm telling you, there's something very, very special, very different than when you just hear it here at home. So that plays very well. And so there would be a lot of pride in having a good American driver. And we have someone in mind, believe me. You know, Colton Herta, the young lad that actually trained in Europe, you know, when Lando Norris and such were still, you know, in Formula Ford in England and so on and so forth. And when he came to the States, Michael put him on, you know, sort of the US F2000 and Indy Lights, you know, which is basically like Formula 2 and Formula 3. And he trained him up to the top level. When we came to the top level, Colton, you know, he was the youngest, he's still the youngest winner in IndyCars. And in fact, he won right here at COTA. He won right here at COTA. And every race that he won 6 races so far. And every race that he won was by speed, not strategy, none of that, not saving fuel, not any of that. It was speed and against the best that IndyCar has to offer. So he's a shining candidate for that. And he really wants to be there too, which also is extremely important. So these are the ingredients that are in place right now. And that's it. And it's worth working toward that.
I've got a follow-up from the driver's seat or the perspective. If you're not familiar with it, you've got to accumulate points, FIA points, to go test in an F1 car. And so it's rather difficult. I'll say my opinion is IndyCar is not respected enough in the FIA world to get as many points as I think an IndyCar driver deserves. Mr. Andretti, what do you think about that? Should it change around IndyCar points?
Well, I think there's some talk about that, quite honestly. But also you gain some points if you're a champion in IndyCar. That is accredited. And I think it's also it came out just last week that Zach Brown will be giving Colton Herta some testing in last year's car, which is legal to do. So there's so many miles that are required to do it in a Formula One car, even if it's a year old. And so, you'll have the appropriate accreditation, to get a super license. No question about it. We know all that. All that. That's a given.
Mario, I have a follow-up about the American angle in Formula One. I've seen it in my time in the sport. I would call it a little bit of anti-American bias almost. And I wondered if you saw that when you were coming up, or do you still see any of that now? I know with Liberty Media owning it, it's different, but still, I still see it to this day.
Well, I think you have a lot of that, and you can probably state it or overstate or understate it. It's a matter of having the opportunity and showing that you belong there. That's all there's to it. I mean, it's really, you become part of the family. I've been so fortunate, throughout my career that I didn't look at, now we're in Europe, now we're this and that. It didn't matter. I was in a race car, and that's where I felt that I belonged. And it was up to me to do the job the best way that I could, and being with the right team. So if you go out there and do your job and you bring home some results, or you impress some people, then that's it. Case is over. You're part of the family. It has to be in that respect. It's all about, you can talk until the cows come home, but you have to produce. But you also have to have the opportunity. And again, Michael would be one that would be giving some of these youngsters the opportunity, to be in this stage.
Mario, I think I'd just like to touch on, like we said, the growth in the last decade plus. I think a lot of the very creative people, and South by knows all about that, have done a very good job of portraying motor racing, which is very hard to portray and understand if you're coming to it from afar or from other sports. It's not the obvious. It's hard sometimes to understand what's happening. But I think some of the films, there's a great film about Mario even, Drive to Survive, came out in 2019. If you really want to know what Mario's
Drive
gets
Like
up to.
Andretti.
Drive Like Andretti. Yeah, and films like that. Ron Howard's done a great job with Rush. By the way, Mario won that race. Nobody seems to remember that. I had a chat with you, Mario, about that. And you reminded me that in that film, the winner of the race was actually Mario Andretti. Nobody remembers that. You remember that race well. But I'd like you to talk about how the movie industry, the TV industry with Netflix, and the portrayal of your sport, how accurate is it? How important is it to bring new fans in? And what's your take on sort of Drive to Survive and some of the things you've been involved in?
Well, I think it's always it's fabulous. I think it served the sport very well to have films especially about characters that are known. As far as the accuracy of it, of the storyline, I think in somewhere it leaves some things to be desired. But Hollywood, sometimes they have to dramatize things in different ways. But nevertheless, the fact that you have some really good stories out there, like the Ford versus Ferrari and all that sort of thing. And it's amazing that in both of these films, the Rush and Ford versus Ferrari, I was part of the scene in those years, and sometimes I cringe, the way some of the events are represented, but nevertheless, still the audience will get the idea of what the sport is all about, and that's the important thing. So it's all good stuff. It's all good stuff.
Mario, I got a question for you about Netflix Drive to Survive. Would you have liked a Netflix crew following you around and getting your take on all this?
No, thank you. I'd like to be part of it, but I'm not sure that I would look forward to all the work involved.
Well, it's been fun for us to watch from Netflix. I mean, we see a lot of behind the scenes, but there's more that we've not ever seen. So everybody else is getting a huge glimpse behind the scenes. And I think for the most part, most of the teams and drivers feel like it's pretty accurate. There's probably been some embellishment, but it does make for great television.
I can tell you that I was not referring to Drive to Survive when I said about the inaccuracy. I think that's a different story. There, they actually they tried, in every way to be as accurate as possible. And I think that in that respect, yeah, I don't know, some events, I don't know, you can dramatize the Grosjean situation any more than what it was. So here again, I mean, our sport can be very dramatic indeed. But all I said is some of the storylines in some of the films were just the events, did not happen properly, or the characters were, I think, portrayed slightly different than they actually were. So things like that. But the Drive to Survive Netflix thing is a totally different thing. I think there gives you the way I didn't see all of the episodes, but overall, and actually from individuals in the business that have commented on it, it's well done indeed.
Mario, obviously here at South by Southwest, the biggest festival there is for technology, music, film, and a lot of the people here today are going to lots of different lectures and sessions about technology and about the future. There's no question. I think the phrase was coined that tech is the new cigarette money of Formula One, because, and while that's not a great parallel, it does count when it comes to sheer money. Obviously, when you started out in the 70s, there wasn't anywhere near the technology involved in Formula One now. And as you stand on the wall of the 500 with Michael day in, day out, like you will this weekend in Dallas, it's everywhere and it's vital for racing. Are you both surprised and pleased that the timing of the interest by Dell, Oracle, Cisco, you name it, has come at a time when you need that kind of money to go racing?
Yes, of course. I mean, the sport has evolved like the rest of the industry. I remember the first time that we instrumented the car was back in 1984, I think, at the Romeo Proving Grounds in Detroit or in Michigan, where we were able to deliver telemetry as to the basic movement and deflections on the car and everything that was happening. So up to that point, everything had to be estimated. So I know how valuable that all of that became, and now the computer, is the all-out tool, to be able to gather data and everything else, and to set up cars. I mean, many of the drivers obviously and the teams do a lot of setting. They do maybe 80% of the setups in simulators and all that. So, and that's what attracts some of these technical companies, no question, because that's today. Before I'm going to have the full setup of the car and everything right in my iPhone, and I have half of it right now already, in the two-seater, but that's the thing, it's whatever tools are available to shorten, the workload and getting to the point that you need. Yes, you're going to use those tools. And today, there's plenty of that available. The only problem is everybody has it. It would be nice if only us could have it. That's the thing. When all of a sudden the computer became the thing, I said, oh my goodness, I said, can we keep this to ourselves now? But there's so much knowledge out there now. And again, it's all part of the times, and you ride with it. Everything has become more sophisticated. Why? Because you reach a different dimension of knowledge for what you're doing in what you're doing. So, but that again, it's an evolution, and we've seen that in our lifetime, and applies in our sport for sure.
You said you still drive the two-seater. What kind of license do you have? You still have a super license?
Yeah, I have an unrestricted license, yes. So, I have to submit, the physical. Actually, they're tougher for me than some of the young lads because of my age, they don't have a lot of data So, they want to see if my brain still functions and all that. So,
Mario Andretti still gets in an Indycar, has a back seat that you folks can wind up in. I've done it. It's amazing. He still pulls hard, believe me.
All right. If anybody has any questions, you can step right up. I see you jumping up. Go ahead.
All right.
Hi, Mario Andretti. My name is Hannah. I'm a 25-year-old woman from Austin. And my question for you and the panel here is, what can Formula One do to increase female representation in the sport?
Oh, I think that's a lot of that is happening actually in our sport. We have, there've been female chief engineers and so on and so forth, and I think that the avenue is open. It's there are no roadblocks anywhere. It's all about knowledge, all about wanting to be there. But in general, it's been basically a male-dominated sport, but females are absolutely welcome in every respect. I don't know that there's any area where there's any issues, any blocks, quite honestly. So it's all about applying and all about going through the steps and showing that you're ready to be to be part of it and so on and so forth, and that's it.
Yeah, and my take on that is I've been banging that drum for a long time too. I for one reason only, it's a ridiculous marketing tool. Opportunity. If you, look at the planet. How many women are there? Come on. So you're talking about a very expensive sport. Well, there's many products that could be represented by women only, and the investment, the marketing, and so on. And we've seen with people like Jamie Chadwick, now with IBM as an ambassador, and we saw with the W Series coming here, that things are changing. And that attitude, the grid girls have gone. Thank you. I hate standing on a podium with a girl in a bikini trying to make conversation. Those days are gone, thankfully, in a way that now does give that opportunity in the right circumstances for women to be treated as equals in a sport that has been totally dominated by men.
All right, we have another question from the audience. Mario, go ahead.
Yeah, hey Mario. So I don't have a question, it's more of a comment. I used to work in IndyCar racing, and I used to work in Andretti Autosport, and I was running the vehicle dynamics and simulation program, and I was a race strategist there for a while. And I'd been working in IndyCar for about 10 years, hadn't met Mario, and one morning in St. Petersburg, I was sitting in the engineering trailer talking to Marco Andretti, Mario's grandson, and we were talking about the different changes we were going to try and what the setup was looking like and everything. And all of a sudden the door in the trailer opens up and Mario sits next to me on the couch, no introduction, nothing, sort of taps my leg and says, "So, what are we doing?" And I just want to say that was the most intimidating question, and I was more scared to answer any question than ever in my entire life, probably to this day. And also my best buddy is Romain Grosjean's race engineer right now, Olivier Boisson at Andretti Autosport. So go Andretti and Romain, and it was great meeting you that day, even though it scared the hell out of me. So.
By the way, I wasn't going to blame you.
Yeah, sure.
I will say, Mario is one of the nicest guys you will ever come across at the track or anywhere else. Our first year here, we were working and we come out. Well, Mario was on the show from the broadcast. We do the show, do the rest of the show. We're doing the racing, all that. Come out, and Mario signs autographs for what was probably an hour and a half or 2 hours after everybody else has left the paddock, and he's holding court with fans. And thanks from the fan experience for what you do there.
Go ahead.
Hi, Mario. My question is, do you think there's an upper limit for how many races in Formula One the United States can support? There's talk of a third race being added as a Las Vegas street circuit. Are there any other venues that you'd like to see represented?
Well, this is a very good question, and obviously you can always saturate the situation. And quite honestly, I don't think anyone knows. But at the same time, here in America, you have IndyCar, you have NASCAR, and you can probably oversaturate the system, quite honestly. But as big as this country is, I can't see how you could not host 2, maybe 3. But I'm not sure that you would venture doing anything more. If anything, I think two would probably be the formula. But like I said, I don't have that magic wand, to really be able to determine anything like that. But I think to some degree you want to satisfy the fan base, but at the same time you want them to really, really look forward to it. Just like everyone looks forward to the one big race, the Daytona 500, the Indy 500. Why does the Indy 500 draw 300,000, 350,000, 400,000 people? Because it happens once a year. If it was happening twice a year, you probably wouldn't even have not even half of that attendance. So it's all about something. People have to really want to look forward to it. And there's such a thing as having too much of a good thing, actually. So if you give a kid too much ice cream, it doesn't care. But if you say you can only have a little bit, so it's the same thing. It's all about ice cream now.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Nice Red Bull jacket there. Thanks.
And if we're at the press conference here at COTA during the USGP, and they kept asking that question of all the team principals, and some of them got up to 5 and 6 races.
Yeah,
I think they were caught up in the enthusiasm. But,
Yeah.
But I agree with Mario. I think there's absolutely a limit. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hi, Mario. My name is Andrei. Wanted to bring the question back to the TV series and movies, because I and a lot of my colleagues and friends in entrepreneurship, we use, somehow it's magical to watch F1 to get into the right mood before getting into, well, we're not driving cars, we're writing code mostly, but it's mega effective. I don't know why. And my question to you is, as a person who has been in these situations where you had to do your best and perform at your highest, do you have a ritual, like before your races? Did you have any kind of a routine? Yeah,
that's something that's I think is very personal. I think every driver wants is preparing mentally differently, I suppose. Some just want to be all to themselves. They want to be distracted. Others just want to be just the opposite. But mentally, for me, it was always, the biggest thing was, to be able to try to think about turn one, what's going to happen, what could happen, because that's always the most critical part of almost every race. And many times I didn't prepare properly either, because I got caught up in some turn one fiascos more than once. And the traditional butterflies, I can tell you this. When I started racing, obviously, you have all those, like you said, the traditional butterflies, and I figure, maybe 3-4 years from now, when I get more entrenched, all of that is going to go away. The same butterflies were in my stomach when I was 19 than when I was 54, 55, in the race car. So, and if you don't have that anxiety, that means that something is not really important to you. And so to me, every single race was as important, no matter, people would say, okay, there's a big race tomorrow, it's Monaco or it's Indianapolis, it's Daytona. What do you do different? Nothing. You do everything the same. If you do something different for those races, that means you're doing everything wrong everywhere else. So I always say that teams that football teams that go to the Super Bowl, do they change their plays? There's something different that they've done the whole season? No. If you do that, I think you've done everything else wrong and you're not going to win. So it's all about, again, just really putting, concentrating on really what works. But I don't know if I'm explaining properly, but all in all, as I say, it's for me. I prepare the same for every single race, and because everyone was just as important. Everyone was extremely important to me.
All right, we got time for about 2 more questions from the audience.
Hi guys, I'm James. You might know me as Corner Marshal James. Did you find yourself getting more into motorsport during the pandemic? There's a lot of nodding heads, yeah. For myself, everything went away during the pandemic, and then iRacing brought racing to the TVs, and they were able to do that in the seclusion. And then they started doing races again without a crowd, and I just, for me, there was a void with sports, and then I just got more into it.
Well, I did some iRacing, and what I really enjoyed about some of that iRacing, when you looked at the grandstands, they were full. Yeah, there was a capacity crowd everywhere, So that part was very cheerful, actually.
No bruises either. Just hit reset.
No bruises. No, I did plenty of crashing actually, and that's it, just like this.
That was a fascinating time, though, watching guys like Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc and George Russell. I think that they gained some confidence even that helped them to the racetrack. And I think I've even heard them say that because they were so popular. It did so much for their careers. And one of my favorites in the United States was Connor Daly. I don't know if you saw him streaming on Twitch and everything. He was one of the best and endeared him to even more to me. But that was a fascinating time. Thanks, James. We appreciate your question.
By the way, one of my most famous, or my favorite part of that was Will Power calling Scott Dixon a wanker.
Yes, and others got in more trouble.
Yes.
I'd like to just shout out to NASCAR and Steve Phillips, is it? But basically, if you really think about it, and Mario, you'll know this, NASCAR, and of course he's done his NASCAR as well, but NASCAR were the first to come back, and they really showed a road map to the rest of us. I do Trans Am, and NASCAR led the way. Formula One followed suit, created a bubble. Indy did the same. Mario, would you like to comment on just how NASCAR did a great job of bringing us all back?
Well, obviously they have more events and so on and so forth, and let's face it, to have these ghost races, was actually awful, and somebody had to step up and test the situation, and they did a marvelous job because again, you can still follow some protocol, but they used a lot of common sense, and I think it worked, obviously, because as you could see from the events, even as well attended as there was no real spike, in the COVID situation and everything. So somebody had to test that part of it, and again, and I think IndyCar did that quite well also. I remember the one race that the 1/500 where there were no spectators allowed. Was the saddest thing I've ever seen. I was interviewing on the 6th floor of the Pagoda in Indianapolis, and the cars were all gridded, and there was no one there. I mean, I thought, I thought I was at a funeral or something. It was just terrible. So, and then as soon as things started opening up, then we wanted to be there. You could see just the reaction, even at COTA, when it finally opened up. Yeah. Everyone would be there. Why? Because we missed it so much, and we didn't want to settle for that. We didn't want to know anything about the new normal. We wanted normal, not new normal.
What do you think that Formula One could learn from other American motorsports like IndyCar and NASCAR, for example?
Well, I mean, it's everyone is doing the level best with what they have, in a sense. I mean, it's what could they learn? Everyone wants a certain personality, if you will, and I think, again, Formula One, the way it's been displayed, I think it fits in with, with the geography, if you will, where they're going. And everyone, every country is doing their level best to be able to present it properly. And I think, again, I think there's always something you can learn from the other side, I suppose, but I couldn't even come up with a specific, quite honestly, because everybody has different rules and so forth. Many fans like to make comparison. Oh, well, look at the pit stops. Formula One, they're just a 2-second pit stop. Yeah, well, they have 15 guys doing the same thing. I mean, they got 3 men per wheel and all that. In NASCAR until this year, they have 5 lug nuts to go. Yep. In IndyCar, you can only have 1 guy per wheel. So you know what I mean? It's all about rules, but everybody has their own characteristic. And at this stage, I don't think anybody is really missing anything. I quite honestly, I think that every discipline, they're trying to just maintain their own personality and just, be proud of what the rules they have and execute as such. So that's the only way that I see it. I don't even know if I answered the question. Actually, Amy just suggested to me, she said, better fan access, maybe. Yeah. Maybe they could, maybe that could be, but at the same time, maybe just because they can't be that close, maybe they want to even more to try to be, who knows? It's the ice cream thing. You know what I mean?
It's true.
Back
We've
to
got a
the ice
Mercedes
cream.
fan up at the mic.
Yeah, hi Mario. My name is Peter. It's an honor. Thank you to our hosts. This question that I have actually piggybacks off of that in terms of access and how F1 looks in America. And everyone knows Americans love personality. And so as we've seen in Drive to Survive, we've really gotten to know these drivers and even a lot of the team principals and beyond in Zach Brown and Christian Horner, Toto Wolff, of course. And so in this past season, Max Verstappen actually chose not to participate in Drive to Survive. And as a result, in the Netflix series, a lot of the portrayals of the Mercedes and Red Bull rivalry often felt one-sided, or Christian had to really step up and tell their side of the story. So with respect to that and the way that entertainment is changing the face of F1 going forward, not just as a sport, but as entertainment, do drivers have a responsibility to be champions of their sport and to participate in things like Drive to Survive like they would any normal interview?
Oh, absolutely. I think every driver, of course, they have the responsibility. What would we do without fans? I mean, this is something that, from my standpoint, I love to be able to have, every opportunity to be able to communicate and to mingle with fans. I mean, it's there are times, obviously, when you have work to do and so forth. But in general, I think it can make such a difference. I mean, I remember just when I was a young lad, one of my first races that I was only in this country for 2 years, and I'm in Trenton, New Jersey, and they just had come back from the race they had in Monza on the high banking, and the local driver Eddie Sachs was one of the drivers that that was actually protagonist in this race, and me as a young lad, I figured, oh man, I'm gonna walk up to him, and I was scared. I mean, I was deathly afraid that I was going to be rejected, and I said, oh, you were in Italy and so forth, and he came over and he just gave me time. I never forgot that. And I know what it means to the fans, young and old fans, to give them the time of the day. I think it's every driver's responsibility to do so. And any one of the drivers that actually don't understand that, they're cheating themselves.
Here.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Good question.
Good question. That was excellent.
All right, well, go ahead. We got time for one more.
Thank you for the honor. Luis Adrianza, and my question, well, I'll phrase it a little bit. So resiliency, focus, hard work, having a growth mindset, they all go into getting a better lap time and obviously winning races. Which of those values do you carry into your personal life?
Well, I'm lazy. No, I think it's all about sense of pride, in my opinion. What makes you feel good? To me, accomplishing things that even in your own life, I mean, even on a daily basis, you know, if you do something that maybe even makes somebody smile for that matter, or to satisfy yourself, you've done a good deal, or you've done, you know, it's all about not resting on your laurels, if you will. There's always something else to do, and I have certain ambitions. Like I always say, you know, people, are you retired? No. I said, when I'm retired, they put me in a box, and that box better have wheels on it. So, and that's the way I am. So, and the people around me, they know that, and that's what keeps me ticking, you know. And so, again, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I have a certain desire to satisfy myself, and sometimes by satisfying myself, I satisfy others. And I love to have people around me that have a smile, that have a sense of purpose. And I think you wake up in the morning, oh yeah, it's going to be a great day, type of thing. To me, that's a great mood to have right off the bat, if possible. It's a lot better than than the alternative, obviously. So be positive.
Thank you very much.
Mario, I know you said you'd be with us for an hour, so our time is up. I wanted to thank you so much for coming on. I wanted to thank you for one last thing. One of my favorite things every Christmas is when Mario Andretti tweets a picture of his Christmas tree and asks everyone to tweet theirs, and then he comments on every single one. Don't let him tell you he's lazy, because I've seen him comment on every Christmas tree he puts up there. It's my favorite Christmas tradition. Mario Andretti, thank you for being with us here at South by Southwest. We thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. And sometimes, okay. Be careful what you wish for, type of thing.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mario.
Everyone. Cheers.
Thanks, everybody, for coming out. We really appreciate it.